All right, so the first lesson of the year is going to be on cutting for all of you second graders. So we have a scissors and a black piece of paper. That is all we are going to need today. Going over just once again how to hold on to the scissors. We have small hole, we have a bigger hole, and so your thumb goes into the small and the rest of the fingers go into the big, or like I said, it's about comfort. So I'm only going to put 3 fingers in and then have my pointer finger underneath. Okay. Thumb always is on top and the other hand holds your paper. Okay. If I had a circle that I had to cut out, this would be the hand that turns my paper as I am cutting. Okay. Good thing for all of you is all you have to do is cut out straight lines from the bottom of the short side all the way to the top of the short side. Okay. So going over that one more time, you are going to hold the paper down at the bottom of the shorter side. These are obviously longer. Okay. So you want to have it the tall way in front of you. And using a pencil for the first line, we're going to see if I can see this, otherwise I'll grab a white crayon. You are going to try your best to cut a straight line from the bottom all the way up to the top. Now, you're not going to do it with pencil. You're not going to do it with a chalk line or a white crayon line. You're going to just cut. But what you need to look for is at the bottom, do I have the same amount of space down here as I have here? Some of you will end up cutting a line that looks like this. Okay. And what we should all be saying is, ooh, right? But it's a lot harder to cut this and watch that spacing. Then this is pretty easy to do a crooked line. Now, a lot of you are not going to do it this crooked, but you'll notice that on some of yours, it's this far, and then on the top, it's a lot wider, or vice versa, meaning it's smaller on the top and wider at the bottom. We want it to be the same. Okay. The other thing is when I'm cutting, okay, I don't want to obviously hold the paper, so I'm crossing my arms like this. That's, I know you can't really see how I'm crossing my arms, but we always want to start on the side of the paper that is holding the scissors. So if I'm holding it in my right hand, I want to start cutting on the right side of the paper. Okay. The reason being is if I'm over here, look at how much space I have to hold that whole piece of paper. I'm holding it with like my pinchers. Okay. If I start on the same side as I cut with, I have this whole piece of paper to hold on to. And obviously, as I cut, it's going to get smaller, but it's really nice that for the majority of my cutting, I am holding on to a bigger piece of paper than always this tiny little itty bitty spot. And I like to not be that close to my fingers when I'm holding scissors. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over because now you guys kind of know what you are expected to do. I start on the side of the paper that is holding my scissors. I'm going to hold the paper with my thumb on top, my other fingers on the bottom, and now I am going to cut. Now you're going to cut as many strips as you can. They don't all need to be the same size, but I don't want them to be too thick. Okay, so you're cutting thinner lines, and I'm going to hold, and I'm always cutting away from my body. And as I'm cutting, I'm looking at that space from my scissors to the edge of the paper, and I'm trying to keep it the same. So when we look at that, okay, that looks like it's pretty much the same thickness. Now I could cut one out that's a little bit skinnier. Next. And this is probably the thickness of your pencil. And I would not do anything thinner than that one. Okay, so I'm going to push those off to the side, and I'm going to keep cutting. So I can do a wider one. Okay, maybe this is as wide as your thumb, and I wouldn't go any wider than that. But what's important is that you have different thicknesses, that they're pretty much straight, and that they're the same thickness on the bottom as they are on the top. So I'll stop cutting or talking now and continue cutting. And some of these are going to be good, some of them are going to be bad. I'll talk about that at the end. We'll look at all of them, and you'll have a chance to get rid of some of the ones that aren't very straight. So let's say I cut one and it's not straight. Okay, so let's look at that one. We can all see that it's wider at the bottom, skinnier at the top. So that's not going to be a good one. But because I cut that crooked, I also have the same problem here, is that I have this diagonal. So what I want to do, for me, I'm going to look at it, and I might have to start right at the edge. So like right on the edge, and I'm going to try to get rid of that slant. And so basically what I've done is made it so that if I put these two together, they're almost back to that same thickness at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to keep these here, but probably at the end of the class, I'm going to get rid of those. A couple more. And when you're cutting, I have a bigger scissors. I also have been doing this a lot longer than all of you, so I can go a little bit faster. Please take your time. And what you don't want to do is end up with a bunch of, I get this all the time where people end up cutting, and we all talk about these as being like saw blade edges. So these little pointy parts. Okay, if you end up with that, you're going to want to go back in and smooth that out. Okay, so again, you might have to come over a little bit and try your best to cut slow. I cut all the way so that it's closed, and then I work my way up. This wouldn't be one that we wanted to keep, but I'm going to put it over here anyway. And now I have this much. What we're trying to do is get about 7 really good strips. Nice and straight. Same thickness. Okay. This is my last one. That's too wide. You can see it's wider than my thumb. So I'm going to cut this one right down the middle. Okay. And then after I'm all done, I'm going to line them all back up. The reason we're doing this is so that we can see kind of what we did, see which ones are good and which ones are bad. Okay. Now we can see right away this one's not the best. This one is not the best. This one's kind of wide. And so let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now I have 11. I only need to have 7. So you can decide, do I want to keep all of them? And I can decide next class when we start the project if I need 11 or if I just want to have 7. Or I can get rid of, I think it was 4. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And maybe I want to keep this skinny one and get rid of one of these wider ones. Okay. So I can either keep all of these ones because they're pretty straight, or I can just keep 7. Keep them, with your project until next week's class, and you'll find out what you're doing with them. Otherwise, if you're in class, we are going to be putting them into a folder. Thank you.